Welcome back to Crimez. Thank you for being here, for choosing to sit with me to listen and to reflect. Tonight's story is quiet, painful, and deeply unsettling. It isn't about violence in the traditional sense. There is no killer hiding in the shadows. Instead, this is a story about fear, belief, isolation, and how love, when mixed with desperation, can lead to irreversible tragedy. As the fire crackles softly in the background, let me tell you the story of the Vance family. Rebecca, known to those close to her as Becky, was a devoted mother. Her son Talon was only 13 years old, a child standing on the edge between boyhood and adolescence, still needing protection, guidance, and stability. Christine, Becky's sister, was part of that small family unit, bound not only by blood but by loyalty. From the outside, they looked ordinary. They lived in Colorado Springs. They had routines, conversations, worries like so many others. No one imagined that one day, all three of them would vanish into the mountains and never return. In the years leading up to 2022, something began to shift in Becky's worldview. The world felt unsafe to her. Society felt unstable, threatening, corrupted. These fears did not appear overnight. They grew slowly, fed by anxiety, isolation, and a deep mistrust of modern systems. Becky became convinced that the only way to protect her son was to remove him completely from the world she believed was collapsing. School was no longer safe. Cities were no longer safe. People could not be trusted. Nature, in her mind, was the only place left untouched. Talon didn't get a choice. He loved his mother, and like many children, he trusted her completely. He was pulled out of traditional school and switched to online learning. His social circle shrank. Friends became distant memories. Before leaving, he sent messages to people he played games with online. Goodbyes that felt strange, heavy, final. Some begged him not to go. He was only 13, but something in him seemed to understand that his life was about to change in a way he could not control. Christine was hesitant at first. She was not as deeply consumed by the same fears as her sister, but she loved Becky. She loved Talon. And the idea of letting them go alone into isolation felt more dangerous than going with them. So she agreed, not because she fully believed, but because she did not want them to be alone. In the summer of 2022, they left. There was no dramatic farewell, no clear destination shared with loved ones. They packed what they believed they needed to start a new life: a cheap tent, a few supplies, some canned food, a fishing rod, survival manuals, and packets of seeds meant for planting. What they lacked was experience. What they lacked was preparation. And what they underestimated was the mountain itself. They traveled deep into the Colorado wilderness, eventually settling at a high elevation, nearly 10,000 feet above sea level. To seasoned survivalists, this terrain is unforgiving even in the best conditions. For three people with no real survival background, it was deadly. At first, it may have felt like an adventure. Fresh air, silence, the illusion of freedom. But summer does not last long in the Rockies. As weeks passed, temperatures dropped. Snow came early. The ground hardened, lakes froze. The fishing rod became useless. The seeds they brought could never grow in frozen soil at that altitude. Food ran out far faster than they expected. Hunger set in, slow and relentless. Weakness followed. Inside the tent, their world became smaller every day. Movement required effort. Thinking became foggy. Talon kept a journal during this time, a heartbreaking record of a child trying to make sense of suffering he never should have endured. His words showed loneliness, confusion, and longing. He wrote about small moments, about missing things that once felt ordinary: candy from a store, warm food, normal life. Beneath every entry was a quiet sadness, a child waiting for things to get better. They did not get better. As winter tightened its grip, the cold became unbearable. Their shelter was not designed for mountain winters. Their clothing was inadequate. Firewood was limited. Calories were almost non-existent. Their bodies began to consume themselves. Talon, still growing, was the most vulnerable. He weakened rapidly. By the end, his body weighed barely more than a small child's, not a teenage boy. No one knows the exact order of their deaths. There were no witnesses, no final messages, only silence. At some point, Talon collapsed outside the tent. Inside, the two sisters remained together. Whether they believed help would come, or whether they had finally realized it would not, is something we will never know. Months later, hikers stumbled upon the campsite. What they found shocked even seasoned responders. 3 bodies, emaciated, still. The remains of a plan that was never meant to succeed. Investigators found no signs of violence, no animal attack, no crime in the traditional sense. The cause of death for all 3 was the same: malnutrition and hypothermia. The nation reacted with disbelief. How could this happen in modern America? How could a mother trying to protect her child lead him into such danger? How could no one stop it? Family members later spoke out, saying help had been offered: land, shelter, safer ways to live off-grid. All had been refused. Fear had closed every door except the one that led into the wilderness. This story is not about judgment. It is about warning, about how isolation can amplify fear, about how belief, when detached from reality, can become lethal, about a boy who trusted the adults in his life and paid the ultimate price, about 2 sisters who believed love meant escape, when what was truly needed was connection. As the fire continues to burn softly behind me, let this story sit with you. Let it remind us that humans are not meant to survive alone, cut off from help, from community, from reason. The wilderness does not care about belief. Cold does not negotiate. Hunger does not forgive. Thank you for joining me on Crimez and for listening to this story with me while the fireplace glows in the background. Your time, your attention, and your presence mean more than you know. Until next time, stay aware, stay connected, and take care of one another.